everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cartoon Clearance with Meg and Dan. I'm Meg,
And I'm Dan.
and today we are ditching our Ramblepants in favor of Ramble loincloths, because today we're discussing a film of the prehistoric nature. It's a film about the line of nobility during the Cretaceous era, which, of course, we are referring to the beloved classic
Lion King, right?
Dino King.
Oh, I was half right. I was half right.
You were half right. You got the king part right. So, tell us about Dino King, Daniel.
Sure.
A little bit about the background.
Not much is known about Dino King, as it is an anomaly brought to us by aliens. But seriously,
Oh.
it was no. A Dino King made its debut in 2012 of January in South Korea. This is a South Korean film. The film was released in other countries as well, including Russia, Ukraine, India, Germany, and Japan. And we got it on DVD, as in we, I mean the United States, I should probably clarify, in 2013. The movie was directed by Hong San-ho. I apologize for the, pronunciation. The movie was initially inspired by another Korean-made dinosaur movie made by the same people. It was like a dinosaur documentary, sort of. And afterwards, after the James Cameron blockbuster smash Avatar came out, they wanted to implement similar artistic style. Whatever.
Really?
I don't know what you'd call it, but they were influenced by the 3D animation, I guess you could say.
Yes, this is a little different from our usual fare where we talk about, 2D animation. This is all CG.
Yeah, this is all. Well, it's not all CG, as we'll get into later. The original title, I'm not even gonna. It's just I'm gonna try to pronounce it.
Don't try to pronounce it.
Blah, blah, blah. In English, it means Speckles the Tarbosaurus. What could that mean? Apparently, there is a sequel expected to come out in Korea and China by the end of 2016.
Dear Lord.
Speaking of dearest lords, would you like to give us a little summary of our Lord and Savior, the Dinosaur King?
The Dino King. Yeah, of course. The film opens on the hatching of our beloved main character, Speckles slash Spotty Face slash Speckles the Tarbosaurus, so you can see how the film got its name.
He's name fluid, I
Yes.
guess you would say.
And he is named so for, I guess there's some like spot patterns on his face, but they don't really stand out that much in the artwork. He has a loving family with a mother, a brother named Quicks, and two sisters named...
Sisters.
Okay. Well, they don't get names. They're just called sisters.
They're called sisters.
But alas, little Speckles is in for a life of hardship because there's an evil one-eyed T-Rex referred to as Scar, or not Scar, One-Eye, sorry, who really has it out for his family. So One-Eye causes a stampede in which Quicks is trampled and sisters get run off a cliff and Mom gets her neck chomped when she faces off with the T-Rex. So One-Eye takes over Pride Rock, or not Pride Rock, I don't know why I keep doing that.
The Tarbosaurus.
The Tarbosaurus' den, and little Speckles has to struggle through adolescence on his own. But one day, he meets another lone dino, another lone Tarbosaurus, I should say, with blue eyes, who is henceforth known as Blue Eyes. You can tell how much effort they put into the naming of this. So Blue Eyes and Speckles become constant companions over the years. They fend off One Eye a few more times, and eventually they manage to drive him away from Speckles' former den. And they felt the love tonight because some years later they have some hatchlings of their own. The runt has the same kind of spotty face as Speckles, but the times they are a-changing and the land is unstable. A volcanic eruption forces a lot of the dinosaurs out of their homes. So they lose a kid to some falling rocks. Blue Eyes is wounded and they can't make it through the Great Migration that, all the dinosaurs are off going to the Promised Land or whatever. So she collapses. Blue Eyes collapses. Why was that so funny?
Because it's like, I want this to stay in, by the way. It really is like the Promised Land. This movie. Continue. I'm just going to give you my thoughts in a couple seconds.
So, Blue Eyes collapses. Speckles tries to fend off some hungry punk velociraptors before he has to admit that there's no more hope. And oh yeah, he still has two kids to protect still. So they make it to this area near the sea when who should make one final appearance? You guessed it, it's One Eye. So One Eye causes yet another stampede. One of the kids gets thrown off the cliff onto some rocks. The other one gets punted out into the sea. Speckles and One Eye duke it out one final time. The T-Rex ends up getting eaten by like this big water dinosaur. I can't remember what it was. And Speckles saves his last surviving offspring, which is of course the one with the spotty face, of course.
It's nepotism.
And that's the end.
It's the end.
That's the end.
It's a beautiful movie. You
Yeah.
don't even. You know what, Meg? You don't. I'm gonna save you the trouble. This movie was terrible.
What? What are you
I watched
talking
a
about?
very similar movie. It was called The Lion King, as we've already discussed.
Mhm.
But this movie is just terrible, and I guess I should apologize because this was my idea. And back a few years ago, I just found the movie on Netflix and thought, this looks crappy, let's watch it. I made you watch it all the way through on a beautiful fall afternoon instead of just going outside and having meaningful lives. We watched all of Dino King.
We watched Dino King, but I think we really got something out of it. I think that further cemented our friendship.
It's a rite of passage to have sat through the whole thing. And I think as an afterthought, it would make for a really good like drinking game. Like anytime you want to leave or turn the movie off, you take a drink, and then you don't turn the movie off.
And you just keep going.
And you have to keep going until one of you dies and is released from the curse of watching Dino King.
That's
But
pretty terrible.
I guess to get a little bit more thorough, this movie, no, it's just kind of boring. I'd say that's the worst part about it. It's boring with little glimmers of like unintentional comedy.
Well, yeah, it's really funny to look at it and see, oh my god, this movie is The Lion King, but with dinosaurs.
Yeah.
You know, like the stampede, the one-eyed T-Rex.
Oh my god, it's so, and like the best part about the movie is the T-Rex. He's really the hero of the story, I think. He's just, because I want to talk about him right away. This T-Rex is the smartest villain, the most crafty, wily of anything any person, thing, animal I've ever seen in
He's a genius.
media. He is like a conspirator. He's like Professor Moriarty
Uh-huh.
if Professor Moriarty was a T-Rex.
I can agree with that.
He constructs these stupidly ingenious plans to kill and maim dinosaurs that he seemingly has no connection with. Like some armored, I can't remember, armored dinosaur is just hanging out at the bottom of this cliff.
The one with like the mace tail.
Yeah, and the T-Rex isn't even near him. He's just kind of like, I can sense someone's just here and I don't like it. And you see this armored dinosaur hanging out, and then the next thing you see is the T-Rex positioning a boulder on top of a cliff to throw and crush the dinosaur.
No, but the thing is, it doesn't even crush the dinosaur. It
It just
traps
crushes his tail, so he can
that
play
he
with
can't
it.
escape and he can't defend. So the T-Rex goes and starts eating him. But then, like, the T-Rex just leaves this fresh kill that still has plenty of meat on it to go cause trouble.
He has bloodlust.
Yeah, like
He has just his
it's so
bloodlust.
funny.
Well, I think the best one is like when Speckles' spotty face is somewhat grown up. He's just sort of watching the T-Rex from a distance, narrating. Because we should mention that Speckles is the narrator, which I'll get into in a minute. And there's this one dinosaur that's like Wolverine. It's got these stupid long fingernail things. And it's like, oh man, One Eye's no match for blah, blah, blah. And he's like trying to slash at One Eye. And then One Eye positions himself in front of a tree. And then this guy goes in for the lunge kill. And then One Eye like ducks out of the way. And the dinosaur gets his hand stuck in the tree. And Speckles' spotty face is like, that was a dirty trick. Like, no, it wasn't. One Eye's just smart.
By the way, the name confusion here originates because the first scene happens and the character's like, I'm Speckles.
The opening to the movie is this guy's birth.
Yeah, and then there's a time jump to Speckles
About a year
as a
later.
childhood, and he comes along in the narration is like, it's me, Spotty Face. And we're just kind of like, what?
And not only is that confusing because I thought the character's name was Speckles, but it's like, this is a strange narration choice because it's a dinosaur. So you have, in the opening scene, you have this egg just hanging out in the moonlight, and the narrator, there's just a narrator, he's just like, I remember this night very well. This was the night I was born. that's me right there, Speckles. And I'm thinking, okay, well, this guy has an impeccable memory, you know. And then the next scene is seemingly the same dinosaur, but now the dinosaur, because it's a young person, not a young person, a young dinosaur, has a girl voice now to signify that it's young.
Yeah.
But it's confusing because we already heard the narrator of our film claiming to be Speckles is like a grown-up man. And now you have it switching back to like a younger Speckles. So it's like, when is the narrator narrating at the beginning?
Yeah, like when is it present tense narration and when is it past tense, this is me looking back on my life?
Or is it just complete oversight and like they just didn't really pay attention for whatever? Maybe this is an issue versus dubs versus subs, you know?
Maybe, and I do wonder if this movie was any better in the Korean version.
I don't think so, because I still had the visuals to digest.
Yeah.
Regardless, though, the movie is really weird and is just not very good. I think we were talking about it, and we think it was, well, it's pretty clear that it was supposed to be an educational film, but it doesn't
But that's
really
not,
pass.
it's not even clear. And, you know, if we're gonna get into why this movie is bad, aside from just making fun of it and calling it a Lion King ripoff, like,
Yeah.
That's definitely one of the problems. It was really not clear what this movie was really trying to go for. Was it trying to be an educational thing? Was it trying to be just like a plain old entertainment, here's a narrative to get attached to thing? Because I think they failed on both counts, because they had this thing where, you know, you humanize characters in order to
have the audience connect with them.
Exactly. So they humanized the characters, I think, too much to be educational, and then not enough to be really relatable.
And when it was educational, it felt really weird and jarring, because the main character's like, I'm Speckles. Okay. And then he'll be like, oh, that right there's a pterodactyl. You can tell by their long wings and sharp claws that they can blah, blah, blah. It's like, how do you know this? Also...
Yeah, it was a really self-aware dinosaur, even referring to the Cretaceous period as the Cretaceous
it's like,
period.
I live in the Cretaceous period. It's like, how do you know that? These are names that we assign to things later. Maybe we're being sticks in the mud. Well, okay.
Right.
Let's give that a pass. It's still weird, because who is the narrator talking to?
Yeah, but then there's also the fact that, like, okay, you know all of this stuff, but then what about, like, your naming policy? I think it's not a bad thing to give, you know, if you're making these dinosaurs seem more animalistic, it makes sense for them to call each other by things that relate to their appearances, like blue eyes or one eye.
Or Quicks. Quicks is probably fast. Speckles has Speckles. Sisters are girls.
Yeah. But, like, I do think that it was a good thing that the dinosaurs weren't actually physically talking to each other, because I think that would have made it more jarring, especially with, like, the animation.
Yeah,
but, like,
it would have been weird,
you really didn't get any good windows into character motivations aside from Speckles, who was really annoying. And, like, One Eye. Why is One Eye so hell-bent on destroying this family? It's not even about food or whatever, but none of it was explained.
A vendetta against these anyone and anything.
I stand by my theory that he's like an angry divorcee or something.
Yeah, the very progressive dinosaur community that he was not as progressive about, but still very smart. It's just like, why do you want these people? The thing is, like, okay, a villain, there's like the argument of a villain just likes to watch the world burn. They like to just cause trouble because of whatever reason. Maybe they've been wronged, whatever. We can clearly see he's been wrong because he has one eye. We don't know why he has one eye. I have to say he probably did that himself. But the other thing is, he goes out of his way to start trouble. Not to say like villains in other mediums don't do that. Like the Joker goes out of his way to cause trouble. Yeah, but the Joker likes to.
And also the Joker is a human being.
But the Joker will do it to anybody. So does this T-Rex. But he specifically targets the Tarbosauruses for no reason. And there's like this scene where they're just hanging out, and like many, many miles away, T-Rex is just alone on his cliff, like Mount Crumpet essentially, just being like, fucking Tarbosaurus.
I'm gonna get you.
Your days are numbered. And it's like, why? Just stay there. Like, why?
Like, if you're trying to make this an educational film, you would probably want to have the dinosaurs acting according to how they would act in nature. And as far as I
Which is
know,
hard, but-
predators don't just slaughter everything in their way. They slaughter, like, they kill things to eat them.
Yeah.
So why are you having this creature, like, going out of the way to kill all of these things that pose little to no threat to them or aren't anywhere near him, and, like, abandon a perfectly good kill?
It's just like, this movie is seriously an anomaly because there's so many weird things that just keep stacking on each other. Like, Speckles has a narration, we've discussed that already. But on top of that, like, he still makes dinosaur noises. So, like pretend you're Speckles and you're just talking. Yeah. And then, like, but he'll be like, wow, blue eyes. Wow, good job, blue eyes. You're doing great. And then, like, in the back, like, ah! Ah! It's like, oh my god. And it's just loud enough to really get in your head. And it's really funny, too, because there's scenes where, like, he gets, like, smacked out of the way or something. And, like, ah!
Yeah.
And it's just such a weird movie.
It's so weird.
Like,
well, you know that if a sequel ever comes out, we're gonna have to watch it.
oh, absolutely. And the other thing, the main thing that makes it even weirder is the animation. And this isn't really something that is, like, I didn't think it was terrible. There are scenes where I'm like, well, that's pretty bad. But to me, the animation didn't look any worse than if I went to the Museum of Natural History in New York City and watched one of the T-Rex or whatever dinosaur films. Like, oh, this is just like, obviously this is not going to be up to realism, but, like, I'm learning, and this is what the dinosaur would roughly look like or whatever. But it's just, like, not that great, and then it just looks really strange because
Yeah.
it kind of reminds me of if the birds from Birdemic were just given an extra notch. That's what everyone in this movie would look like.
If the birds from Birdemic were given, like, some extra texturing.
Yeah. And the other funny thing is, I'm like, wow, I gotta check out the reviews for this. And it's like a very polarizing thing to go on the review section of Netflix to find this movie.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because there's some people who are like, this is not a good movie. It is far too intense for my little boy to watch. Or, this movie's amazing. Sure, the whatever is a little silly, but that animation really sealed the deal for me. And I can't tell if these people are serious or not.
Yeah. Or like, oh man, I was so attached to the characters, I was crying by the end.
I was crying at the end. Well, I was too, but for other reasons.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I want to
Like,
go home.
Joy that it's finally over.
No, I was crying because the best character, spoiler alert, T-Rex gets eaten. I'm like,
I'm
no,
sure-
my favorite character.
Didn't we come to the agreement that he probably went and, like, ruled the underwater
Oh yeah, he can probably
dinosaurs?
breathe underwater, and he's just like, I'm not trapped down here with you. You're trapped down here with me.
Yeah, exactly.
T-Rex. I want to see T-Rex the movie. I want to see the entire
One Eye.
saga of One Eye, because that would be way more interesting. It'd be hilarious. It'd be great.
Oh, yeah.
I'm funding it. Korea, come to me. I'll give you $1 to make this movie. Maybe this movie is also an anomaly because it was created by a country not really well known for its export
Right.
well, not animation, but a lot of things. Like, the West is not going to be as eager to accept a South Korean produced film. They'll probably be like, we'll take everything and then just redo it over here, you know?
I would take it if it were good.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, like, movie executives, they won't
That's true, that's true.
fund it. They want to make their own version. And it happens with lots of different countries.
Right.
But this movie's just so strange, and maybe it's just a cultural thing where maybe I'm just, like, the Western audience wants certain things out of their film, where the Koreans are just like, no, man, it's about dinosaurs, whatever. Or maybe the Korean version in its original language made way more sense.
That's
Maybe
entirely
they were
possible.
way more liberal with their facts, and the movie was just all facts with some narrative in it. Instead of full-on narrative, and occasionally Speckles would be like, wow, that's the first rodent to ever set foot on Earth. Okay, okay, hold on a minute. How do you know that?
Well, Daniel, I think clearly what this means is that we'll have to go back and rewatch it in Korean with subtitles.
I don't want to do that, though. I've got a
Or
life.
science.
I've got a life, man.
You spent all this
Oh.
time with me talking about cartoons. You have enough of a life to...
I guess.
To do that.
I suppose so. I'm trying to think if there are any other... I think, like I said earlier, the movie is super boring all throughout. And there are certain scenes that are pretty funny. Like, seeing the T-Rex just wreak havoc. If you saw like a highlight reel of just T-Rex moments, it'd be pretty great.
Or like the Velociraptors with their
I was just gonna say that.
Battle formations.
They're, like towards the end of the film, like the volcano erupts and like, oh, we gotta get out of here. And also One Eye's chasing us. And they're like, right, all the little Tarbosaurus families running through this cavern. And like unexpected completely. Like the cavern's like shaking, but you're like, oh, okay, whatever, they're gonna get out. Or maybe the mom's gonna die here. But no, one of the babies die, and you're just like, oh my gosh, they killed the baby. And Blue Eyes is just like, no.
Yeah, but Speckles doesn't seem to care that much.
Speckles is just like, no, baby.
Yeah, none of the kids get names either.
No, except for Speckles Jr. He's got nepotism problems. I don't know, but like, so then they're down one baby, and the mom is like wounded, and they are being attacked by velociraptors, and it's so interesting because there's like a couple like velociraptors. I don't really know because it's hard to say I know what dinosaur behaviors are like because I don't think anyone for sure really will, but we, a lot of people speculate that velociraptors were like scavengers or they hunted smaller game, but these velociraptors are going after like a full-grown Tarbosaurus with its mate and its family, and they're like, we're not gonna stop.
Mention the fact that there was like another really huge dinosaur that had just kind of died of illness.
Oh yeah, they ignore that. They ignore it. They're
so
like, no,
that dinosaur falls down. The velociraptors flock to it and start eating it. And then they look over, they see the Blue Eyes has fallen, and they're like falling behind the pack. And they completely abandon ship to just fling themselves over and over at these Tarbosauruses, losing more of their number than I realized they had in the first place. Like,
well, it seems that they multiply by the end of it. Like at one point there's an aerial shot, and I'm pretty sure there's at least like, at first there's like 7, and then at one point there's like 25
or more. Yeah.
And then like they shrink and they grow. It's like, oh, how many are there? And meanwhile things are getting like they're getting tail whipped, they're getting crushed and killed.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Like, was it really worth it to attack this living unhappy dinosaur rather than just eat the gigantic meal that could hold you over for a really long time?
Or just wait, because like, what's the rush to get this dinosaur down? It's just weird. And then another stampede happens, which is hilarious because you just see like all these dinosaurs walk down like a bend, and then slowly one by one they start coming back, and the expression on their faces is just like, oh my gosh, oh no! Run away again! And like he gets separated from the babies, little Speckle Spotty Face Jr., other one, baby, I guess we'll call it. And then I forget who does it, but I guess was it the T-Rex or just a rogue animal just whacks them both into the water, but one of them just crushes on the rocks.
I thought it was at 2 separate points.
It was at 2 separate points, yeah, but one of
Speckles Jr. definitely just got punted.
Which was a great scene too.
That was hilarious.
Like, but the unnamed baby just gets like kind of thrown down and cracks its head on the rocks below.
Yeah, it's
and
like,
I think once again Speckles
dead.
is just like, no, baby.
Yeah, it's pretty.
And that's just that final scene's really great too, because I'm thinking, man, these dinosaurs are gonna drown to death, because I don't expect dinosaurs
to be
can
very good
swim
swimmers.
or that buoyant. Like I know they're lizards or whatever, and some lizards can swim, but I don't know, I just didn't expect it to. And then you see little Speckles Jr. with a piece of like driftwood, like doggy paddling his way back to shore. And Speckles Sr. is there, and then the T-Rex just getting eaten by the giant megalodon is hilarious, because it just kind of like great white sharks him. It's like, chomp, and then flies away.
And for some reason doesn't bother with Speckles.
And the movie ends with, I think Speckles, I can't remember what the quote is, but it's just like, I wish hope and good times for, I wish that the new times are good to my son. I have hope for him. I have such hope. It's like, you had like, he seems like stupidly optimistic, despite the horrible, shitty life he's lived.
Yeah, the ending wasn't really an ending.
It wasn't a good movie. It's just, I can't say that enough.
And I think
it's not that entertaining. It's more fun if you got someone in the room with you to be like, please, just don't leave me.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's not really that much we can say about it.
No, I mean,
other than that, it's not.
If you really want one thing to take away from the movie, they bothered to name several characters and also bothered to not name several characters.
Yep.
It's like, why? Why? There's so many whys.
Who knows?
Oh my gosh.
I cannot say.
Well, I think pretty much that's the end of this review. If you can call this a review, it was really more of a frown upon, a stain on the Korean animation scene, or the Korean dinosaur scene. I don't know.
I hope they do better next time.
I hope Dino King 2 will be better, man.
I hope so.
Well, I can't say we had a really fun time watching it, but maybe if you did, leave a comment. Maybe Dino King is amazing. Maybe you wrote some of those very convincing reviews on Netflix and said that Dino King was your favorite movie. Let us know. If you think we missed anything, please let us know. I don't know what to think anymore. Leave a comment, subscribe, it would help us out. And remember,
Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata. No, we're sticking with Hakuna Matata.
You might as well, honestly.
It's a wonderful phrase, so we'll leave it on a wonderful note. Hakuna Matata. All right. See us next time, everyone.
Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.